Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the July 11th meeting of the La Crosse Common Council. I will note that we do have a quorum present. We do have council members Christians, Neumeister, and Ostrom excused tonight. For those who are able, please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by our invocation. And tonight's invocation is from Sister Sue Ernster from the Franciscan Sisters of Perpetual Adoration.
Loving God, source of all, we thank you for gathering us here tonight, bringing us together for the City Council meeting to discuss and consider the good of La Crosse. In tonight's discussions, help us to remember to focus on the goodness and the goodwill present in La Crosse area, as well as the goodness in each person gathered here this evening. We also pray that in the deliberations and discussions and the decisions to be made, that all are made with what is best for the whole rather than the minor or the special interests. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Sister. We move on to our agenda, and that includes the approval of the minutes from our June 13th meeting. I see a motion has been made by Councilmember Mettinger, seconded by Councilmember Weaver to approve. Any discussion on the minutes from last month? I see there are no requests to speak, so please go ahead and cast your vote. Motion is to approve the minutes. The motion carries by a vote of 10-0. The minutes are approved. We move on to reports. Item 19-0919, a report of the Director of Finance for the month of April 2019. A motion has been made by Councilmember Richmond, seconded by Councilmember Podesky to receive and file. Any discussion on this report? I see no request to speak. Please go ahead and cast your vote. Motion passes by a vote of 10-0. That report is received and filed. Next is 19-0920, report of the Director of Finance for the month of May 2019. A motion has been made by Councilmember Richmond, seconded by Councilmember Olson to receive and file. Any discussion? Seeing no requests to speak, please go ahead and cast your vote. The vote is 10-0 in favor. The motion passes and that report is received. Next item is 19-0966, report of the Fire Department Division of Fire Prevention and Building Safety on inspections and permit revenue for the month of June 2019. A motion has been made by Councilmember Richmond, seconded by Councilmember Podesky to receive and file. Any discussion? I see none. Please go ahead and cast your vote. The vote is unanimous. That motion is adopted and that report is received and filed. Next, we move on to items under notices and discussions. If you have an item you would like to share, please hit your request to speak button and I will recognize you. Anyone have an item that they would like to share? Anyone? Going once, going twice. I will just cordially invite everyone to the next installment of Coffee with Cabot that is scheduled for July 16th at 5 p.m. at the Southside Neighborhood Center. You are all welcome. We have a good discussion talking about ways that we can improve our city. So please attend if you're able. Okay, we move on to our common council matters. The first item up is 19-0965, a resolution approving the July 2019 engineering estimates. A motion has been made by Councilmember Menninger, seconded by Council President Gall. Any discussion on the estimates for the month? I see no request to speak. Please go ahead and cast your vote. The motion is passed by a vote of 10-0. That item is approved. We move on next to item number 19-1000, a resolution approving the 2019 bills paid in July of 2019. Motion has been made by Councilmember Weaver, seconded by Councilmember Podeski to adopt. Any discussion? I see no request to speak. Please go ahead and cast your vote. The vote is 10-0 in favor. Those bills are approved. The next two items we have actually item 15-1240, which is the intergovernmental boundary agreement terms with neighboring municipalities pursuant to Chapter 66 of the Wisconsin statutes, and the next item 19-0987, presentation and discussion on La Crosse River Marsh lead contamination project, are both noticed for closed session. And if that's the pleasure of the council, I would put those off until the end of our meeting. We'll dispatch with our other business and then go into closed sessions. Those items, we won't be taking any action tonight anyway. They are more, they are information updates, but if that's okay, I don't see anybody strongly objecting to that. So we will move on then to appointments by the mayor. Item number 19-0983, to the Building and Housing Appeals Board, Charles Weath. To the Neighborhood Revitalization Commission, Stephen Nikolai. To the Redevelopment Authority, Cassandra Woodward and Edward Pertarski. And to the Sustainable La Crosse Commission, Kathy Van Maren. I see a motion has been made by Councilmember Richmond, seconded by Council President Gall to confirm. Any discussion on the appointments? Seeing none, please go ahead and cast your vote. The vote is 10-0 to confirm that motion is adopted. All right. Next, we move on to suspension of Council Rule 8 for the following items, which does require a 2/3 vote. And the items include 19-0954, 19-0961, 19-0962, and 19-0980. A motion has been made by Council President Gall, seconded by Councilmember Podeski to suspend the rule. Please go ahead and cast your vote. Again, this requires a 2/3 vote. The vote is 10-0 in favor. The motion passes. The rules are suspended for those particular items. We move on next to report of bids recommended to be adopted. This is item number 19-0896, report of bids and resolution awarding contract to Chippewa Concrete Services, Inc. in the amount of $891,526 for the George Street overlay contract. I see a motion has been made by Council Member Richmond, seconded by Council President Gall, and we will need an amendment on this. We have provided the details on the source of funds. That is included in Legistar. So if we could get a motion to amend, I would recognize that. A motion to amend made by Council President Gall, seconded by Council Member Mettinger. And I don't know if there are any questions or discussion on this. In essence, we were able to reallocate money from the George Street lighting project, from stormwater utility funds, sanitary sewer utility funds, water utility funds. There were some unallocated street funds. There was savings left over from the Exit 3 reconstruction funds, and then also some reallocation from the Logan Northside neighborhood monies. So that's how we were getting to the total amount. And I would recognize our Director of City Engineering and Public Works to speak. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. At the last minute, I asked the Finance Director to also add $50,000 in the sanitary sewer utility funds because we found a manhole on the project that needs to be replaced. But I need the $50,000 to be added to contingency and not to the top set of money because it's not part of the bid. It'll end up having to be a change order. So if I could amend the amendment to take the $50,000 from the sanitary sewer utility funds and move it down to the sanitary sewer utility funds in contingency, that would straighten the resolution out for me.
Thank you, Randy. So I would entertain a motion, unless there's other discussion on that, the general amendment. Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to amend the amendment, if we could. I think we can still do that on our screen. Go ahead and hit your buttons if you wouldn't mind. We're just adding it. Okay. Thank you. So there's a motion to amend by Councilmember Podesky. Is there a second? Second by Council President Gall to move, in essence, it doesn't change the dollar amounts or the total. It just puts the additional $50,000 of the sewer utility funds instead of on the main part of the project. It moves it to the contingency so that everybody understands that. So the total project is $941,526 with that addition of the $50,000. We will not change the caption because we don't do that, but we will have the correct dollar amounts and the sources of funds. And now I would recognize Councilmember Richmond to speak.
Thank you, Mayor. Question, this is something I wasn't aware of. The Exit 3 funds, they're being transferred from Exit 3. Could you elaborate on that, either Randy or the mayor?
Yeah, that's a good question. We are still taking into account the monies needed for the Moorings Drive landscaping as well as the Eagle sculpture. So this is the estimated difference between what we need to get those two parts of the project completed and what will remain. If we do need to make some tweaks, obviously we'll do that, but we are still planning to move forward with the Moorings Drive part of that as well as the sculpture. And
then the wayfinding, and we had up on, I think it was Logan Street to the exit, we had, I think, $100,000 in the budget. So we have used some of that money, so I'm hoping that money is still available. That was in the capital budget.
Correct. And what we have done here is we have tried to reallocate all uncommitted bond funds. The monies that were identified in the capital budget for the Exit 3 improvements, we will, if there is a need to find other monies for that, we will do that under, I guess, a separate effort. Our goal right now was to get the George Street project funded so that we can get contract and bids awarded. So if there are additional monies for wayfinding, I did have a chance to talk very briefly with staff as well as Nick Roush about possibly utilizing some of the streetscaping monies that we have also in the capital budget, $50,000 for the North La Crosse Business Association. So I guess what I'm saying is we'll figure it out. Any other questions? So we've got an amendment on the floor to move the $50,000 for the sewer utility funds to the contingency line item so that we've got that. So unless there's any other discussion, I will go ahead and ask you to cast your vote on this. And we can do that on the, and then we'll adopt as amended. Yes, okay. So please go ahead and cast your vote. So that amendment passes by a vote of 10-0. I would now entertain a motion to adopt as amended, and I see a motion has been made by Council President Gall, seconded by Councilmember Menninger. Any discussion on that? I see no other requests to speak, so please go ahead and cast your vote. The motion is to adopt as amended. That motion passes by a vote of 10-0, so that bid and resolution is awarded, and I do want to just extend my appreciation to our council members and our staff, especially in several of the departments, for pulling together this project on very short notice. We realized after the horrendous winter that George Street north of Clinton would not last another winter, and so the fact that folks came together and got estimates and cost and found sources of funds is very much appreciated. So thank you for that. Okay, we move on next to item 19-0897, report of bids and resolution awarding contract to Olympic Builders General Contractors in the amount of $267,481 for the municipal boat harbor toilet and shower building project, which was rebid with alternates 1, 2, and 3. And I see a motion has been made by Councilmember Podesky, seconded by Councilmember Jansen to adopt. Any discussion? I see no request to speak. Please go ahead and cast your vote. The motion is to adopt. The vote is 10-0 in favor. That motion passes, and that bid and resolution has been awarded. Next, we move on to 19-0898, report of bids and resolution awarding a contract to Fowler and Hammer, Inc. in the amount of $46,677.50 for the 2019 miscellaneous curb ramp replacement project. Motion has been made by Councilmember Richmond, seconded by Councilmember Jansen to adopt. Any discussion? I see no request to speak. Please go ahead and cast your vote. The vote is 10-0 in favor. That motion passes. That bid and resolution is awarded. Next item, 19-0899, report of bids and resolution awarding contract to Borton Construction, Inc. in the amount of $30,671.68 for the Garden Terrace Sidewalk and Curb Ramp Project. A motion has been made by Councilmember Jansen, seconded by Councilmember Podesky to adopt. Any discussion? I see no request to speak. Please go ahead and cast your vote. The motion passes by a vote of 10-0. That bid and resolution has been awarded. We are now on to items with no recommendation, 19-0980, resolution opposing the City of La Crosse's inclusion in a metropolitan sewerage district. This one is also noticed for closed session, so if it is okay with the council, I would group this with the other two items that we'll take up at the end of the meeting after we take care of the other business, and then come back and report out and have our motions in open session after we do that. So any objections to that? All right, I'm going to move on then. We are on the consent agenda. So if you have an item that you would like voted on separately, please hit your request to speak button and I will recognize you. I will recognize Councilmember Olson.
Thank you, Mayor. My holdout this evening is 19-0471, the amended resolution adopting sustainability goals to transitioning to carbon neutrality and 100% renewable energy by 2050. And basically, I just wanted to thank all of the people who put this resolution together. And since I have abstained and objected to political issues not directly related to the city coming before us in the form of resolutions, this one I want to commend and thank the Sustainability Committee and all of the drafters for taking what could be construed as a state or a nation or even a global issue and tying it directly to the business of the city in defining goals for this government to work towards. And for that reason, I'm comfortable casting a vote in favor of this, and that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe there is an amendment that's necessary, so I would recognize Councilmember Slesnikow for that.
Thank you, Mayor. And this is something I did not notice until late this afternoon. It is on Legistar. The amendment, or the seconded amendment, is just a correction to a reference in the third whereas. The correction would read Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has rather than international. So I, again, apologize for not seeing that earlier. I just would like the resolution to be accurate. I second Councilmember Olson's mention about thank you to all involved. I think this is just a very important part that the city is taking, addressing climate change and the effects that it will have. In many aspects of the city. So again, thank you, and I put forward this amendment.
Thank you. I see the amendment has been, the motion has been made to amend by Councilmember Slesnikow, seconded by Council President Gall. Is there any other discussion on the amendment? I see no other requests to speak. Please go ahead and cast your vote on the amendment as proposed. That motion passes by a vote of 10-0. That amendment is adopted. I would ask for a motion to approve as amended. And I see a motion has been made by Councilmember Richmond, seconded by Council President Gall to approve as amended. Any discussion? I see no other requests to speak. Please go ahead and cast your vote. The motion passes by a vote of 10-0. That item as amended is adopted. And if you want to look in the audience, I think they've got some signs that they're holding up for you all. So, okay.
Thank you so much.
All right. Others that have items that they want held out individually for a vote. Are there any others? I would recognize Council President Gall.
I want to hold out 190843 for a recorded vote.
Okay. Did you want to speak on that? Okay. All right. So we have item number 19-0843, a resolution approving proposal for professional services for feasibility study, design, and construction service for La Crosse Fire Station South. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Let's get a motion to get it on the floor if we could. Motion to adopt has been made by Councilmember Mettinger, seconded by Councilmember Weaver. I see no other requests to speak, so please go ahead and cast your vote. That motion carries by a vote of 8-2. The two no votes were Councilmember Podesky and Council President Gall. The motion passes and that item is adopted. All right, moving on to other business. Is there anyone else that has an item they would like held out separately? I heard a motion by Councilmember Richmond, seconded by Councilmember Mettinger to move the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed say no. Consent agenda is adopted. So let's go back then to these three items and we will do them collectively here. So we have three items that we need to convene into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Stats 19.85(1) to formulate and update negotiation strategies and parameters, as well as item for Wisconsin statutes 19.85(1) to confer with legal counsel. So I would entertain a motion to go into closed session for those reasons. Motion has been made by Councilmember Weaver, seconded by Councilmember Mettinger. Councilmember Slesnikow, did you want to speak? No? Okay. All right, so there's a motion to convene into closed session. Please go ahead and cast your vote. Motion carries by a vote of 10-0. We are in closed session. We will dispatch with our business as efficiently as we can and come back. Okay, we are back in open session, folks. We appreciate your patience because we did have three items that we had to sort through. We are on to item number 19-0980, which is a resolution opposing the City of La Crosse's inclusion in a metropolitan sewerage district. And I see a motion has been made by Council President Gall, seconded by Councilmember Mettinger to adopt. And I would recognize Council President Gall to speak.
Thank you. Interesting discussion on this, and I think that after everything that we've learned and what we're going through with our task force and everything else, I think that it's time for us to kind of get ahead of this if we can and make our intentions clear that it is not to the benefit of the city of La Crosse to entertain going into a metropolitan sewer district, and I would ask for your support for this resolution.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on this item? I see no requests to speak, so please go ahead and cast your vote. Again, the motion is to adopt our opposition to the district. Motion carries by a vote of 10-0. That item is adopted. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Okay, so I heard a motion by Councilmember Weaver, seconded by Council President Gall to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say no. Thank you.